Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel, Guided Way. I am your guide, Sean McCauley. Today I'm just doing a tarot deck reveal, and today's deck is Tarot of Wonderland, created by Barbara Moore and illustrated by Eugene Smith. And of course, this is just a smaller deck. You guys normally get the bigger tarot decks that come with a booklet, but this one did not. But that's kind of the experience of going through tarot is learning how to look at the cards intuitively. And as I've explained in some of my other videos, that like some cards, you see one thing, and then like another card, like a good example is that there's the Five of Wands from my fantasy art deck, where it looks like this woman is just being very challenged and being very competitive. Where in my Nordic rune deck, the Five of Wands looks like the woman is tied to a stake, and looks like that's no longer a situation of, being competitive or, being combative. It's a question of survival. So, like I said, when we look at some of these cards, you have to kind of look at them intuitively. It's a good idea to have just a general knowledge of what the basic general knowledge of what the cards mean. But also you have to look at the cards and kind of see what the picture is telling you, and looking at the card and reading it intuitively. But we're going to get into the deck right now. And as you can see, this is what the deck looks like in the back. And, actually this kind of looks, like it's been aged a little bit. But, that's just kind of, some of the intricacies that I look forward to seeing in a deck. We're going to flip it over, and we're going to, the first card here is the Fool of the Major Arcana. And, as you can see, Alice is kind of skipping along, and the cat's just chasing her, and she's just kind of, seems like, she's just, moving ahead and, moving bravely and fearlessly, and just, enjoying life itself. Where if the card is reversed, that means, you may want to take a step back and, proceed, but, use a little bit more caution. The next card would be the Magician, which the Magician is portrayed by the caterpillar, which that makes a lot of sense to me. And then here you have the High Priestess, and, looks like, she's looking in the mirror and kind of looking back at herself, and maybe, saying that, enjoy what you have, and, don't become too obsessed with something for far too long, because you may miss other things that are surrounding in your life. But that's just one interpretation of it. And then here we have the Empress, and it kind of looks like, Alice is trying to help the Empress, either she's trying to help her put her cloak on, or maybe she's trying to console her by putting her hand on her shoulder, because sometimes, we put our hands on other people's shoulders to try and comfort them or console them. So again, another interpretation. And that's just at first glance, because this is just a deck reveal. I haven't really worked with this deck as of yet, so I don't necessarily know. But the more I work with it, the more I'll find out. And then here we have the Emperor, portrayed by this toucan-looking fellow. And then here we have the Cheshire Cat, along with Alice. And this is the Hierophant. And so, he's kind of like, and like in Alice in Wonderland, the Cheshire Cat is, kind of like a guide. He wants to help her, but he's kind of not really helping her, because he always he answers a question with a question, or he gives her riddles and whatnot, and it can be frustrating. But this could also mean, look towards, tradition and things that you've learned over the years, and, kind of, use your own judgment. Go on to the next card, and we have the Lovers, portrayed by, the Red Queen and her king. And, doesn't necessarily look like they're happy with each other, but this card normally represents, about, making informed decisions and balanced decisions. And, when it's reversed, not necessarily maybe, looking at the situation from one aspect, but trying to, get you look at your choices that you're trying to make from multiple points of view, not just one aspect of it. And here we have the Chariot, which is kind of portrayed unusually, because normally we'll actually see a chariot, but you just see here Alice is just holding this pink flamingo, and but this is also could be a card that represents having the strength to maneuver and to make decisions of what you need to do, when you need to do it, and how you need to do it. And then here's the Strength card, and Alice is holding on to this young fawn, and and normally it's depicted by either a lion or a bear, and normally it's how don't necessarily need brute strength, but sometimes you just need to use a little bit more cunning to try and not necessarily use brute strength. This was the situation, but try to use your cunning and your intuitiveness and your intelligence to try and manipulate it to where it may look like you're using brute strength, but you're actually using your head. And then here we have the Hermit. And normally when this card appears in a reading, you see, Alice is back over here, and she's holding a handkerchief, just kind of waving him goodbye. When you see the Hermit, that's generally saying that you need to just kind of withdraw from everything that's around you. And so since he's kind of, on his horse, moving away from her, so maybe that's what he's doing, is that he's going to a place where, he can withdraw and find himself and be comfortable again. Now the Wheel of Fortune. And the Wheel of Fortune, kind of a confusing looking card, because even though it's upright, it shows that the Wheel of Fortune is kind of upside down. But it's just trying to say that, your fortunes may be turning for the better, and if it's reversed, it may be true. Maybe you're taking a turn for the worst. And then you have Justice. Again, you have the Red Queen with her king. So, maybe you have something that, that karma's, sending your way that, you're getting rewarded for, or, maybe it's something that you're going to get penalized for. The Hanged Man, which is represented by the Mad Hatter upside down. And normally when you see this, it can mean, maybe you need to take a look at a situation from a different point of view or a different aspect. But it also represents, a sense of feeling helpless and hopeless. And so when it's reversed, it could mean that, maybe you're struggling against the situation and you're not responding to the situation accordingly, but maybe it's a time for you just to, just be still and be quiet and let the situation, either resolve itself, or maybe the answer that you're looking for will come to you, but it won't come to you until you stop fighting it. And here we have Death. And as you can see, Alice is in kind of a dark place. And the candle's blown out. You got some blue smoke behind her, and this red stuff down here. So death is just, it may not mean literal death. It may mean that, something in your life that you cared about has come to an end. So maybe a friendship has ended badly, maybe a relationship ended badly, or maybe, you had a job at some point, and that job, you either, you had to move, and, you're in your new position, but you kind of missed how things used to be. But this is just basically more or less that, this is the time of, you can be sad and be in mourning, but you also a point of, moving on. And Temperance. And basically Temperance is basically, telling you to use the right emotion, the right amount of emotion, and just don't overreact. Because with reverse, it could just be that you're reacting to the situation very hostily, or maybe you're just overreacting either way. Now, the devil, represented by uh, not the White Rabbit, but the other rabbit, and the Mad Hatter. But generally, when I see the devil in any tarot spread, some people say, it's a question of, making decisions, or maybe you've been in a situation for so long that you felt kind of trapped, because normally you'll see like a man and a woman, and like one is chained down and one isn't. So maybe you're trying to move yourself away from the situation. But I also like to look at the devil as like, something that's very vain, but something that's very testing your, what's the word I'm looking for? Not necessarily giving in to your lust, but a temptation. There we go, temptation. And maybe you're being tempted by something that maybe you feel kind of skeptical on, and maybe you shouldn't, just fall into that. And then we have the Tower, and that generally represents, again, big changes. It can be, in which case, either good or bad, either way. But a sense of tradition and structure, maybe disrupted at this point in time. It maybe you need to change, your viewpoints on it, or maybe your sense of tradition or spirituality is being called into question, and that's okay. The Star, normally that represents, see Alice, and she's hovering over this little pool, and she's looks like she's trying to reach for this bit of wood or piece of paper there. Let me take a bit closer look at that one. Okay, it just looks like some kind of piece of paper there. But normally this represents, peace and hope and healing. And, sometimes, when it's reversed, it could be that, that's what they may be struggling with. The Moon, that represents, shadows. It represents things that are unseen. And, maybe that you're not fully aware of everything that's going on at this time, because as you can see, you got the walrus, and you got I believe that's one of the twins, and you got all these back here, and of course the lobster. Sometimes you'll see a cat in there as well, but you see these two wolves howling. So maybe something in the darkness, or maybe the wolves are trying to caution you of something. Again, that's just my interpretation, just looking at it for the first time. And then we have the Sun, and that generally represents, a point of happiness and joy and abundance. And essentially everything that you've been working for has come to a head, and it could be a sign of completion. And Judgment. Okay, and Judgment can, be kind of like the Justice. But you see the White Rabbit over here, he's blowing his horn, and like this one guy just kind of, seems to be, hitting with something, and he's like saying, "Oh, hey, wait, stop!" And you see this one guy, he's down on the ground, and he's struggling to get up. So maybe the rabbit's judging them, but anyways, this could be, like a legal issue, or a situation that, is coming to be resolved. And normally when this card is upright, it will point out that, the judgment of the situation is going to be resolved, and it's going to go in your favor. If it's reversed, of course, it's the opposite. And again, we have Alice again here, and she's at the World card, and basically that just represents, the seasons. As you can see, the diamonds, the spades, the hearts, so like the diamonds are the swords, hearts are the cups, and, the spades are the wands, and, no, wait, the spades are, diamonds are the swords, hearts are the cups. The clubs are the wands, and the spades are The clubs with the pentacles and the spades are the wands. Sorry, it took me a hot minute to remember that. But, essentially this represents the changing of the seasons. From spring, summer, winter, fall. So maybe when it's upright, as seasons change and life changes, things are going to be changing, but they're going to be for the better. And again, if it's reversed, maybe things are, not working out quite the way you want them to, or maybe there's something that you could have done to prevent it from this being reversed. And then we have the first card, the Ace of Pentacles, and it's represented by kind of like these shield-looking things, and that normally represents kind of money, finances, monetary gain, so on and so forth. And then we have the grasshopper juggling a couple of pentacles, and then see Alice is up here, busy trying to pick these pentacles off this tree. And, so, she's, maybe working for this person. So this could be this kind of like, a new business partnership or a new business relationship. Maybe just got a contract or something. But in which case, a lot of these, I'll explain that, each time I use these. But when I look at these cards, sometimes I'll see something different. And it won't necessarily be the same thing, even though it's the same card. But I'm just going to kind of just go through the rest of these cards just kind of quickly, just so I can just, see the pictures. But this is just a pentacle set. And, see Alice and the Brown Rabbit and the Mad Hatter just kind of, having a decent time. And again, you have one of the black cards represented by this. You got right here, so one of the Queen's men. And of course, kind of see this bishop-looking fellow, and he's kind of going, okay, I don't necessarily know what this is. Oh, well, he's describing with that big piece right there, so that could be that, he's working really hard trying to master, using this tool to create these. And of course, Nine of Pentacles, it represents a point of, abundance. And, the Ten of Pentacles represents a completion. And, the Pentacles is that, the Page of Pentacles represents that, that you're starting a new phase or a new project. And the King of Pentacles, he's somebody who's very smart, he's very wise. When he talks, people will listen because he knows how to get what he wants, but he doesn't have to force himself on it because, it's in his position. So this could be like a boss or, some kind of employer. So and the Queen of Pentacles normally represents, she has all these things back here. So she has this, sense of abundance. And, these are basically like her little treasure hoard. So this can be, she's at a point where, she is, comfortable and she wants to surround herself with her material things because these things make her feel better because this is like, like a toy collector who has all these toys. He goes into his place and he sees all these toys. He's like, I am so comfortable in my room right now. I'm in my space and I have all these things that make me happy. So the Knight of Pentacles, normally he just kind of represents that, you've had your adventures, you've worked hard to get where you're at, and, you've had your ups and your downs, but now it's the time that, you just want to take a rest. And as you can, see the look in his face, he just is really, really ready for a break. And then we go on to the Cups, which represents, emotions. It represents, emotional connections and emotional bonds. Like right here, just like a small gathering of three friends together, kind of having just like a small party. Alice with these two other people. So this could just be like just a small, simple celebration. Just, celebrating, friendship or just life in general, and just being able to do that with, a few close friends. And the Four of Cups, it kind of seems like a little bit dismayed, a little bit upset. So maybe, he has these cups, but, he's kind of trapped where he's at. So maybe, he's not necessarily as happy like this dolphin here. This dolphin is grateful to how this one cup is playing with it. But, he's lost his cup, so maybe he didn't necessarily get what he was expecting or what he was hoping for. And of course, the Five of Cups, 3 cups up here, 2 cups down here. So this is kind of like a situation where, you've lost something and you're trying to get it back, and you're not really paying attention to what you currently have. And so it's just saying that, sometimes things are out of reach, and sometimes you just have to let things go. And you see Alice with the white rabbit, with the 6 of Cups. And, I've often said, that could be, looking back on fond memories of her past. So, look, but also you can also learn from the past, and maybe you need to look back to your past to, try to move forward. If this is like reversed, you're looking at a situation where, you may feel kind of, bitter about the situation, that, that these memories aren't as happy as you would hope they would be. And the 7 of Cups, that just represents choices. You have these cups here, and, you have multiple choices to choose from. And that's saying that, you have so many choices right now. And you can only choose one thing. And the thing is, when this card is reversed, is that, maybe you've taken too long to make your choice. And so the decision was made for you, or somebody else made the choice for you. But normally this represents this is a really good opportunity, because you get to choose what it is that you're going after, and just go after it. And the 8 of Cups, she has all these things, so she's reached a point to where, that, they've gotten to a point to where maybe, they can't go any further, so it's time to move on, because as you can see, she's kind of walking away. And the 9 of Cups, again, represents kind of a sense of completion. You're in a good place emotionally, you're in a good place, mentally, and, you're feeling, kind of comfortable. But it could also be a point of, that you may have something that others don't, and you may be kind of looking down on other people because of it. And again, 9 of Cups, you've kind of reached a point in a relationship or with friends or family members that you feel comfortable, that everything is abundant, that everything is kind of going the right way. You have the Page of Cups, and this can represent, the start of a new relationship or a new challenge, or maybe you're starting a new project that's, kind of personal to you, but not necessarily to anybody else. And then you have the King of Cups. And so at this point, he has reached a point to where, he's gone as far as he can, and, he's gotten his accolades, he's earned his position, but, he wants to move on, and he should start looking for something kind of creatively. And the Queen of Cups represents, essentially, emotional growth, emotional abundance, and a degree of perseverance. But this is somebody who's very solid and very well connected with themselves. They know who they are, they know what they are, and they can be very, very wise, but sometimes they can be a little bit impulsive. The Knight of Cups, as you see, he's on his horse, he's kind of showing up. So this could be somebody who's bringing you, kind of good news, and, maybe things that haven't been going quite the way that you wanted them to, maybe, or maybe this is just, he's delivering a package or something that contains the good news. The Ace of Swords. Essentially, this represents, communication. It represents truth and honesty. And reversed, it could really mean that, you're using that truth and that sense of honesty and that sense of purpose, and maybe you're not necessarily using the way it should be. You're using truth like a weapon as opposed to, for what it really is. The Two of Swords, which really represents, at this point in time, you need to make a choice. The Three of Swords, normally this kind of represents, normally when I see this card, it normally just represents that, this kind of love triangle, and it's not ending very well. But it could also just be that, you've gotten bad news, you've had heartbreak, and you've had upsets. And so, that's just one take on it. But, either one or two people may have not been entirely honest with you. And so maybe you feel like you've been betrayed and stabbed. So, the Four of Swords. And that can represent, it's considered that they kind of pointed down at him. Maybe a point of, of defeat and helplessness. The Five of Swords, and since it's the Red Queen, this is a very combative situation, but it's more like a battle, and maybe your judgment is being called into question and you're not liking it. The Six of Swords, they're all in a boat, so maybe you're in a situation that maybe, it's just time to just leave the situation altogether. The Seven of Swords, as you can see, he's got all these swords, but he's left two behind. So this can represent that, somebody's being deceitful, or he's trying to steal these swords. Or maybe, this is a question of, these swords were my ideas, this is what I've done, and other people are trying to take them away. And, I worked on this for far too long to let somebody else take credit for it. And reverse, it definitely indicates, something very deceitful that's going on. And the Eight of Swords, feelings of being trapped, and, you feel like you can't get out of it. In reverse, you talk to yourself that you can't get yourself out of it, and that you believe that, other people can get you out of it, but you can't, and actually you can't. The Nine of Swords, all these swords hanging above his bed, and the rabbit, is holding his face and his head up. So he could be suffering from migraines, he could be suffering from nightmares, but, something is troubling this person, and you're not being able to get the kind of rest that you need because you have a lot of anxieties. The Ten of Swords, as you can see, this situation did not end well, because you see all these bits and pieces of articles of clothing, and the situation's over, but whatever it was, it did not end well. And of course, if this is reversed, it really did not end well. Something really bad happened. It was something that maybe you could have prevented or not. The Page of Swords normally shows up, he's carrying some kind of good news. And of course, he's holding a sword like he's protecting it, trying to make sure that message gets to the right person. And, so maybe if this is reversed, there may have been a delay in, you getting that information. And then there's Humpty Dumpty as the King of Swords. And so, the King of Swords, he knows who he is. He's all about his intelligence. But, again, if you kind of look at the expression of his face, he seems kind of ruthless, kind of arrogant. And so, but also, if it's reversed, maybe he's kind of gotten lax and complacent. And, maybe he's just spent too much time, just sitting on stuff and not taking care of things the way he should have. And the Queen of Swords, she's very communicative. She's all about, being able to communicate and convey messages, but, she's very well reserved. She will maintain her composure. If somebody gets the better of her, you're not going to know it because unless she wants you to know it, because she won't say anything unless she tells you. And she does not speak just to hear herself talk. The Knight of Swords, and this is basically saying that this is the start of a new challenge and a new phase, and you know what you want, you know how to do it, and you know exactly how you're going to do it, and so this is a good card. But again, communication. But thing is that this represents thought as well as not just intelligence, but this is how you're going to go into a situation and handle it. And of course, Wands represents passions. So this right here is like a new project or new something that's close to you. And of course, Wands represents fire. So the start of something new that's really got your attention and your focus, and you're looking forward to doing it. And the Two of Wands, she's kind of looking off in the far off distance. So maybe she's at a point to where she has to make a decision, kind of like the Two of Swords, or maybe she's looking back on, maybe I should have thought this through a little bit better. And the Three of Wands, as you can see, the White Rabbit, and that's normally, you've made a choice, but now you have to wait to find out what the answer to that decision was. Because looking at the boats, and maybe one of these boats, somebody on that boat has that answer for him. And if it's reversed, it's saying that you're going to have to wait that much longer. And of course, there's the Four of Wands. There's Alice with these cats. And she's got a little makeshift canopy with the four wands or staff sticking up out of the ground. So this kind of like, it's just like a small celebration. And, it's bringing her kind of happiness and joy. And again, like, the Five of Wands I was saying before with like my fantasy art deck and my Nordic rune deck, that this can be a sign of, competition, but, it could also be a sign of, survival. But this just looks like everybody's just kind of competing, so this kind of represents, a job opportunity or a promotion, and there's lots of people who wants that position, or maybe you're vying for somebody's attention, like maybe potentially a friend or maybe a love interest, but you feel like you're in a situation where you have to compete. The Six of Wands represents some kind of achievement or award, maybe a succession, maybe you got a promotion. The Seven of Wands represents, standing firm and, sticking to your guns and, standing up for your beliefs and staying true to your convictions and, not letting other people, lead you astray from what you firmly believe. The Eight of Wands represents a lot of things are in motion and a lot of energy is going out. And so if you're waiting on a decision for something, a lot of things are moving at this point in time. And so it looks like it might be moving in the right direction, so you should be finding out soon. And then the Nine of Wands here. You can see this one guy holding up this wand here, and now all these wands behind him. I see that he's undertaking, a very difficult task. And, he's kind of getting tired and weary. And, so hopefully, hopefully you can get to the end of that point. But at this point in time, it's just that, maybe this is a time that, if you're in a position, like a manager's position or something, maybe you need to delegate responsibility to somebody else. That way you're not taking on so much by yourself. And then the Ten of Wands, this kind of represents the end of your long and arduous task. So maybe you was able to, either delegate the responsibility, or maybe, somebody else came up with this idea, like, that attach the wands to your back so you can, like, focus on your little bin here. And then the Page of Wands, generally represents, again, another project at the start that you're at the start of, represented by the little lizard dude. is kind of, just going, I think I can do this. I think I got this. But, if it's reversed, it's kind of like the Fool, because essentially if it's reversed, there's an expression, treading where angels dare not go. Well, the Fool reverse in this card, reverse will also represent, they will tread where angels fear to tread. So that represents count caution if it's reversed. And then you have the King of Wands. It seems like, he's got this little thing that's trying to balance on his nose. But he's doing a good job of it. And, he's trying to stand up and he's holding his crown. And, of course, he's holding his wand. So maybe, this one point right here has your complete attention right now. But there are other things that you're trying to do. And maybe, maybe you shouldn't be doing this. Maybe you should be focusing on this or this. And not necessarily this right now. And so if it's reversed, I would say that, probably, these were the things that you should have been focusing on. And, you were doing this and you were just kind of goofing off. And then you have the Queen of Wands. Again, she's very driven, very passionate, very nurturing. But in this card,